Welcome back to the podcast and to today's episode, which is going to be focused on Chelsea's short-term striker solution, particularly focusing on Cobham Academy graduate Tyrique George, who came off the bench at the weekend and scored a crucial equaliser, his first senior goal for Chelsea in the Premier League, just 10 days after he got his first senior goal for the club away to Legia Warsaw in the quarter-final of the Europa Conference League. It's been a big week. It's been a big season for Cobham Academy graduates as a whole, not just Tyrique George, but Josh Achimpong, Sam Raksaki, Keanu Dyer. There have been a few who have made a name for themselves under Enzo Maresca, broken through into this incredibly competitive Chelsea squad. But we're going to look today at just how feasible Tyrique George is as a solution, potentially to Chelsea's goal-scoring worries. Before we get into it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But let's start talking about Chelsea. First off, a quick recap of that win. Obviously, it's been a while since we've actually been able to dig out a full remontada, since we've actually been able to fully complete a successful comeback. And away win in the Premier League has been hard to find, hard to come by. But if I'm not mistaken, our first away win in the Premier League of the calendar year on Sunday. It took a lot for this young, inexperienced squad. Look, I know there are multiple situations, multiple times this year where we have gone behind, fallen behind, conceded goals to teams that we shouldn't have gone behind to. Ipswich, the week before last, prime example, shouldn't have gone to 2-0 down. But the fact that we are able to dig ourselves out of these situations with this young squad, which I have said for the whole season, the entirety of this and probably last season as well, the core, and I'm not alone in this, a lot of the Chelsea fans agree, one of the core aspects that this Chelsea team lacks is experience. And that is definitely a big factor when it comes to cup competitions, away games, when it comes to teams playing low box, putting their back against the wall. This young Chelsea team is going to struggle to break it down. But I think all credit to them on Sunday. An extremely lacklustre first 45 minutes, but the second half was far more like it. Tyrique George coming on, having an impact. The subs actually making a change. It's been a while since we've seen those little tactical tweaks from Enzo Maresca worked, but it was necessary at the weekend and it came off, and I'm glad that it did, because he's been getting a lot of stick, particularly from the fan base across social media. And I think if we are to attain this Champions League spot, if we are to win the Conference League and go far or do well in the Club World Cup, I feel like a lot of these fans will be doing revisionism, will be turning around and saying maybe I did judge him too quickly. So let's wait until the end of the season before we judge Enzo Maresca as a whole. But focusing on the players, there is a clear mismatch in terms of the output that Nicolas Jackson and Cole Palmer have had for the last 18 months and the output that they are currently having. Cole Palmer has gone off the boil. His touch has completely gone. Nicolas Jackson hasn't had his shooting boots on for 3-4 months now, and it is becoming an issue because although we are looking at this Chelsea team as, extremely talented players all over the park, and you should be having 5 or 6 players contributing. You shouldn't really be relying on the 2-3 players that we, as we were last season, relying solely on Cole Palmer to go out and make something happen. Again, this season, we have relied a little bit too heavy on him and Nicolas Jackson, and it's been very evident when they haven't been scoring. But in the first half of the season, there was kind of enough activity, enough going on. Jadon Sancho, when he first came in, was getting a couple of assists. Christopher Nkunku was obviously in great scoring form in the Conference League, but those goals across the board have dried up. And although Noni Madueke has, in recent weeks made it to 10 goals this season, Enzo Fernandez, I believe, has now made it to 10 assists this season, the first time in both of their respective careers they've done that, there is still a very clear disconnect, a very clear hole in the middle of the goal. And I think it was very prevalent, very evident for a lot of Chelsea fans watching the game at the weekend, seeing us put ball after ball after ball into the box with nobody to get on the end of it. And it was kind of like what Real Madrid were doing against Arsenal. And you were thinking, you've got all these fantastic technical players, yet you're slinging crosses into 5'9" Endrick, 5'8" Vinicius Jr., 5'7" Rodrigo. It was very, very strange that was the way that they wanted to play. And that kind of echoed for me on Sunday. Chelsea weren't playing to our strengths. We've been saying all season, we haven't got a box striker, we haven't got a presence, we haven't got a real number 9. Why are we continually flinging ball after ball after ball into a poachers, into a number 9's area, when that's clearly not the team, not the the system, not the setup that we have. It's not our strength. We need to play to our strengths. And when we did that, and, testament to Enzo Maresca for keeping it consistent and not bowing to the pressure of the fans and, changing his mentality, because everybody says, the reason we scored is because they ignored Maresca's instructions. That Pedro Neto goal was prime Maresca ball. That Pedro Neto goal was about as blueprint as you can get for what Enzo Maresca has been trying to implement into this Chelsea side. There are not many moves this season I've seen. I think that was Chelsea's second most highest passes ending in a goal or something like that. I can't remember the exact wording of the stat. But there have not been that many fluid, quality movements this season that we've scored from. We have done that a lot where we've put fantastic balls into the box. We just haven't had the right player on the end of it. We haven't had someone to convert that chance. But in terms of creating those chances, we do a lot. Yes, they have dried up as of late and as of recent weeks. If you compare it to the first half of the season, they're a lot more few and far between. But that's not to say that they're non-existent. That's not to say that they're not there. We are still creating chances. We just haven't found that person to occupy that number 9 space. Obviously, Nicolas Jackson does fantastic work running in behind, stretching the defence, the link-up play, the runs, the build-up. As I've said, his shooting boots have not been on. I'm a huge fan of Nicolas Jackson. I can't sit here and say he's been holding down his spot. He doesn't deserve. Fortunately for him, Nkunku's clocked out, which is why he's had the freedom and the ability to have this dip in form. I feel like when they were both competing against each other and when they were both pushing each other in the first half of the season, it was positive on every single account. Enzo Maresca's happy because he's got 2 scoring strikers that are competing. Jackson's happy because he's scoring, and Nkunku's happy because he's scoring. You're both pushing each other to be better. Whereas that's kind of now completely flipped on its head, and it seems like Nkunku and Jackson are both battling for who can miss the goal by the widest margin, who can miss the most clear-cut chances in a game. But it's quite clear that Chelsea do need, even if it is just short-term, we do need a solution. Over the next 5 games, they are 5 must-win games. We have Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, Everton, Manchester United, Liverpool. 5 incredibly tough games. Even Everton is a tough game. And I'm looking at Newcastle and Nottingham Forest in there, mainly because they're the 2 other teams that are competing for the top 5, and they're the ones that we are going to want to take points off of most to ensure that they don't leapfrog us. If we beat Nottingham Forest, if we win all of our 5 games, we're in. That's it. And that's all we have to focus on. We can't be hoping, and I said this in my live stream, we can't be looking at other teams to be dropping points. We need to be winning what's in front of us. That's the bare minimum. That's all we can do. That's all we need to do. I'd like to think Liverpool, the league will be wrapped up by then. You saw the team that Man United played. I'd like to see that, to say that's a fairly easy 3 points. Everton on paper should be 3 points. Newcastle, have they run out of steam after that demolishing loss from Villa? Maybe. Excellent team. Have they run out of legs? That's the question that that's the one that I'm not sure on. Nottingham Forest, I think, again, superb team, but on our day, that is our cup final. That's the one that we have to win. We beat Nottingham Forest. We're 3 points ahead of them. We've put some distance. There is a little bit of daylight. We have a little bit of security. That's the game. But obviously, we do have to win the other 4 games to ensure that we are safe and to ensure that our destiny does remain in our own hands. That being said, I'm not predicting 15 points by any means. Stranger things have happened. Let's just leave it at that. Let's just leave it at that. But getting into solutions, we've been talking about the whole situation as a whole. Solutions. There are 3 solutions for me for the next 5 games, and then you've got 2, 3 in the Europa Conference League. But let's just look at the 5 league games. You've got 3 solutions. You've got Nicolas Jackson. Persist with Nicolas Jackson. Keep going with Nicolas Jackson. I wouldn't be against this, but at the same time, I feel like Enzo Maresca has to put his foot down. He's got to sit out, I think, for at least the Everton game. I think he needs to sit on the bench for a game. I think he needs to be shown that he is not undroppable. I think he may have, with this Nkunku situation, Mark Yu being injured, I feel like Nicolas Jackson may have been lulled into a little false sense of security. Maybe he's thinking his position's a little bit safe. Drop him, throw caution to the wind. I personally think he needs at least 1 game out. The second option, persist with Nkunku. Now, Nkunku was dropped at the weekend. I'd be very, very surprised if he does make it back into a Chelsea squad. I mean, maybe he comes back into the Conference League. I don't think he comes back into the Premier League squad. Look, we all know there's a player there. We all know he's got the talent. He's got the ability. He's done it at Chelsea. He's done it at Leipzig. Albeit few and far between. He hasn't done it that often at Chelsea. He has done it at Chelsea. He has done it in the Premier League. We know he can do it. Nobody can tell me he can't do it. He's an excellent player. But it just hasn't worked for him. I've said before, mentally, physically, emotionally, he's clocked out. And if, obviously Enzo Maresca's got the opportunity to turn around and say to him, look, treat these 5 games as an audition, whether it's for me, whether it's for your next manager, or whether it's for the next club that you're at, if we sell you in the summer, treat this like an audition. Treat this as like this is what I can do. This is why I'm worth what I'm worth. But that needs to come from Christopher Nkunku. Enzo Maresca can say that to him, but if Nkunku's sitting there going, knowing I'm gone in 5 games anyway, is he really going to be motivated to pull us out of a hole? I don't know. Yes, there's a player there. No, I don't think he has a future at Chelsea, so I don't think that is the option. For me, the third or final option is probably the most difficult for me to come to terms with and come to grips with and accept the fact that I think this is the best option. And the third option is a false 9. False 9s at Chelsea do not work, have not worked. This is a disclaimer. I hate false 9s at Chelsea. If anybody says false 9 at Chelsea to me, the first thing that springs to mind, Andre Schürrle against Manchester United, Jose Mourinho at the helm, might have been 2015, 16, 17, around that time. It was horrible. The game was 0-0 or 1-1 or whatever it was embarrassing. Andre Schürrle at false 9 did not work, and that was the moment I got it into my head. It will never work for Chelsea. And I've been proven right time and again. You look at these players that excel in the false 9 role, Nkunku, Havertz, players particularly coming over from Bundesliga, doesn't work in the Prem. Doesn't work for Chelsea. We need a bully. We need a Drogba, Diego Costa, an Olivier Giroud. We need a big physical number 9 target man who can bully defenders, who can also do that link-up play, but we need a box presence. We need someone who is a striker, a traditional number 9, a big physical bully. However, with that not being available to the squad, false 9 I think is the way to go. You look at Pedro Neto's ball striking. You look at the goals he scored this season. That ball strike, the way he hit that against Fulham, there's no way he's a winger. He's not, no winger hits a ball like, come on, man. Listen, the number 9, false 9 options, you've got Cole Palmer, you've got Pedro Neto. You could argue Jadon Sancho, but I think it's just Pedro Neto, Cole Palmer, and Tyrique George. I think Tyrique George might be the right option. I think nobody, maybe Reece James, bar him, nobody will understand more. Nobody will resonate more with Tyrique George and the club and this situation we are in right now. 5 cup finals. No one will understand that better than Tyrique George. He will understand that better than maybe Enzo Maresca. Better than maybe some of the other players in that squad. Because he's a player that understands what it means to be Chelsea. He's been there, done that for the youth ranks. And he is an exceptional footballer. He bleeds blue and he will, more than anything else, want to be playing Champions League football next season. And he's not a striker. It's not a long-term thing for sure. Let's just re-disclaim this is a short-term solution. I wouldn't mind, definitely off the back of, the Fulham game and him scoring that goal, fantastic technique from Tyrique George. The first goal he scored against Legia Warsaw wasn't, a fantastic goal. It was just the manager had asked him to follow up shots. He did what he was told. He followed it up. Poacher's instinct, striker's instinct, managed to get the goal. Good little finish, obviously, fairly open net, fairly easy opportunity. But he got it on the board. He scored, and that's all that counts. And then 10 days later, he's demonstrated to us that he can score snapshots. With the greatest of respect, Nicolas Jackson ain't scoring that. Nicolas Jackson's not hitting that first time. He's trying to take a touch and flick it over and do three things to get to the 6-yard box. Tyrique George has shown fantastic initiative. I think not only is he a direct player that wants to make something happen and wants to excite, but he's smart as well. He knows when to pass, when to shoot. He knows when he's able to take that opportunity. He's very, very good at picking his moments, I feel. And while in the first kind of couple of games, first kind of couple of cameo substitute appearances he had, he was more, definitely more akin to passing the ball, didn't really want to have a shot. Now he's more than happy. I think he's proven to himself, as well as the Chelsea fans, that he's got that ability. He's proven that he can do it on the big stage. And he's gone, oh shit, I can do what I was doing for the development squad for the senior team. Oh, say less. I personally think, try him out. I think this is a player that's been with us since 2000 I don't even know. But he's been with us since under 8s, under 9s. Sensational player. I mean, you can look at his statistics from the development squad, his youth, his youth statistics, academy statistics from the last few years. This is a guy that is just a prolific creator, scorer, assister. He is a prolific danger man in the final third. He makes things happen. He's a very, very good creative player. And while his best positions no doubt are out wide, I'd say potentially out left, where he can drift in on that right foot. He's pretty ambibipedal, but strongest on his right foot. So I'd say stick him on the left, cutting in. But I do think he's shown us that he's got the ability to play 9. And I definitely, if nothing else, I want to see him starting against Everton. Even if it's not in the 9, I want to see him starting. I think he deserves his chance. Out of those 3 options, which realistically are our only options for the next 5 games, we have to do something about the fact that Palmer and Jackson aren't scoring, whether that is dropping Jackson or whether that is doubling down on him. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Option A, persist with Jackson. Option B, persist with Nkunku. Or option 3, go with a false 9. For the last 5 games, let's try something. I think Enzo Maresca's system on the whole has worked this year. With a false 9, it's been a little bit more kind of clunky. It's been a little bit less clear to see the identity, because I feel like that player maybe gets lost a little bit in his responsibilities and then kind of not understanding where his, the dynamic of playing as a number 9, particularly as a lone striker. But look, 2 goals in 3 games as a false 9 for George. I say, throw caution to the wind. What's the worst that can happen? Everton at the weekend. Let's give him his chance. Let me know what you think. In the meantime, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We will be back for more content next weekend. I'm going to drop, of course, a Chopping It Up with Charms on Friday. There will potentially be a Lone Watch episode as well this week. And then back to it with the live match reactions, Chelsea-Everton. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And we'll see you very, very soon. Up the Chelsea.